Rochelle, hello Nancy and Kelly, Kay, Matt, Andrea. Hi Kimmy, it's been a little while. Welcome all. Lady Peacock and J.E. Kay, is that a white flag of surrender? Okay, I burned some sage and I was letting it burn out, and I have a preference, which is creating suffering, that I want to move the sage. So hold on just a second. And I'm going to open the doors. So happy to be here with you all right now. I just finished listening to Michael Singer talk. My morning routine includes coffee, meditation, and listening to a spiritual talk of some kind, and usually it's Michael Singer. And so in preparation for today, I listened to Singer again. So thank you, Carmen. Welcome. Hi, Vicky. So, let's start with an introduction. Is there anybody new to me or new to Insight Timer? And I'll just briefly share about, who I am and how you can connect with me and what my offerings are for anyone who feels called to connect deeper. Hi, Diana. Welcome. Deb, hello. So I'm a spiritual life coach, Reiki master teacher, and intuitive. You can learn about me on my links. Please follow me here if you don't already. Please give a donation if you feel called. Yesterday I went through and acknowledged everyone who's given donations with replying to the donation in Insight Timer, and it's something I do every so often, and it's been a few months, and there was so many kind and wonderful donations and comments with the donations, and just felt full of gratitude, especially after yesterday's live stream. How many of you were here for yesterday? It was, super powerful, and it always is, and whatever, no judgment. And that one also was really amazing. So I think the replay is up on my YouTube already. If you missed it or if you want to revisit it, you can check there, and please subscribe there. Hi, William, Wendy, and Blossom Violet. So yes, thank you, Kelly, for your presence, and everyone. I know many of you were there. So I was saying that, anyway. Oh yeah, because I was feeling so grateful and uplifted after the live, and then, replying to all the gratitude, or to the donations. I just felt so much gratitude, so thank you. Awesome, J.E. Glad it's helpful and valuable. I am in a new place that I plan to be for a while. I've lived here before years ago, and I wasn't really expecting, but I was like, maybe the internet will be faster. It's not. It's good enough, and however, it does not allow or support a dual live stream with YouTube and Insight Timer. Or actually, if it does, I'm afraid to test it because I'm afraid that to ruin a live by trying to do a live stream. But maybe I will gamble with that. But to say that for now, until otherwise announced, you can catch these replays as just uploaded videos to YouTube. So, I work one-on-one with people. I actually have a special right now with my signature Reiki and Ancestral Clearing session. I'm giving, it's like a 33% discount on that. So please reach out ASAP. It's just going to be available for a limited time. If you want to have a personalized session, I know many of you have, and we did the interactive ancestral clearing recently. And so you could experience that, and you can experience, that more deeply with a one-on-one if that's interesting to you. I also have my group Money Mindset program coming up June 1st. A number of you have signed up or have inquired about it. So if you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired around your finances and lack and scarcity, and you are ready to change and create abundance and dig into, all of the subtle layers of, where this stuff comes from, as well as, doing actual things in your outer world to create abundance and take those bold actions that may be uncomfortable, then send me a message and we'll see if you're a good fit for the Money Mindset program. Spaces are limited, so if you feel the calling to do that, reach out. I also have a couple spots open for one-on-one spiritual life coaching, which can support you in making changes in your life, changing your mindset, again, like the inner work and the outer work. So that's me. Hi, Britt, welcome, and Jamie as well. So, Michael Singer. Who does not know who Michael Singer is? And it's not to shame you, it's to inquire so that I can share maybe a bit more deeply about him. I know many of you are Singer fans. I used to say Singer sluts, but that not everyone, a slut could be any sort of gender, but it's like, that's funny, but yeah, anyway, it's a way to not take myself so damn seriously. So maybe we'll come up with another word but I'm a Singer fanatic. Y'all hear me talk about him all the time. So awesome, Jamie. And it is good to laugh. I went dancing last night. So this is one of the a story that's totally top of mind because it just happened last night and we're doing this surrender circle today. So very briefly, Michael Singer is a spiritual guide or teacher who has been somebody who has been in the world but not of the world. Was very much in the world. He was, he got almost his PhD in university. He taught at university. He did prison work for 30 years. And through the amazing unfolding of him surrendering to life, he ended up being on the board of a $1 billion company called WebMD, which every American knows. So he's very much an example of totally being in corporate America, in corporate life, and yet being a spiritual being there and not compromising his commitment to his spiritual growth and awakening just because of his surroundings. In fact, his commitment to who he is created his life. So, yeah, mad props to him for that. So, read his book, Surrender Experiment, if you want to read the unfolding of his life. It's really inspirational and powerful. He also has a book most people know in the spiritual world called The Untethered Soul. It came out a long time ago now. And that's really what put him on the map. And then last year, too, he published Living Untethered, which is deeper teachings about all of this. So this is who that person is. So let's dive into what his message is. Hi, Angela. And congratulations, Britt, starting university. Yeah. Completely changing careers. So how can you use, and I know you are already a student of Singer, so how can you use his teachings around this change? Everything's an invitation. Thank you, Kimmy, for the title. Yes, that's his newest book, Living Untethered. Great. So I'm going to open this part of the discussion with a story that will, just open the discussion. So last night I went dancing, and I live in Bali, if y'all don't know that, and I went dancing at the beach. I have a we call it a motorbike here, a moped. It's one of my favorite things of living in Asia is driving my bike. So went down, it was over an hour. Traffic is crazy in Bali. It just is what it is. So I got down there feeling light, feeling expansive, dancing for a couple hours. And then, I've got to trek back, and there's some resistance around that. And also it's worth the drive. It's at night and just whatever. And so I go to get my keys to leave, and the keys are not there. So I lost my bike key. And it's Sunday night, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in Bali. I'm over an hour from home. And, because of my journey, there's a level of awareness that's here to where I'm not 100% totally identified with happenings. There might be, a few seconds where I'm just in the reaction and in the experience. And then there's a witness and there's an observer behind that sees the reaction and the response. So, I'm like, where's the key? It's not here. Let me check my whole bag again. Okay, it's definitely not here. And it's like I can see the path of the old self that would have had a huge emotional and internal reaction and response, which there's nothing wrong with, but I just see that old pattern. But because of all of the work that I'm doing and have done on myself, there wasn't that. There wasn't that at all. There was a tiny blip of like an energetic response. And immediately what came to me was, I get to surrender to this experience, because what else is there to do? You know, I could, sure, I could have a reaction about it. Sure, I could get upset by it. Sure, I could argue with reality and, get pissed about it. I can choose that, or in the old ways, it wouldn't really feel like a choice. Or I can just surrender to what's here. The reality is the key is gone, period. I looked for it. It's gone. So now, this is the facts. This is the confirmation, without story, without context, without resisting, without creating my own suffering. What do I choose to do based on this reality? So, I looked around, I asked the staff, I checked at the beach, I checked where I thought it was. It wasn't there. Okay, then what? Now, what do I want to create? So yesterday in the live, I talked about like the most powerful coaching question. Given this situation, what do I want to create? And then the other part with my coaching that I work with people with is looking at, who are we being? What state of being are we in any moment? Because we create from our energy and from our state of being. And so who am I being in this situation? I was being surrendered. I was being aware. I was being in possibility. I was being in possibility and looking, and I even was like talking to the key, or talking to myself, like, let go, just let go of this energy of resistance, of wanting to cling and grasp, wanting to desire, because what happens when we let go of that, then pop out of nowhere, I didn't see the key, but that could definitely happen, instead of grasping around and frantically looking. So who was I being? I was being grounded, I was being centered, and then given the situation, what do I want to create? I wanted to create, a solution for the moment to take care of what I needed to. So what that included was, okay, I don't live in the US, we don't have AAA here. I texted the owner of the bike. I rent the bike. So I texted the owner, told them, they're like, we need to have a key made. They checked around, everything was closed. A key cannot be made right now. So that means the bike cannot move. So then, given that, what do I want to do? I can stay down at the beach. I could get a hotel for a night and take care of this tomorrow. Or I can get, a taxi back up to my home and then take care of this tomorrow. So all of these unfoldings in this situation are places to surrender, release preferences and desires, which this is what Michael Singer talks about. And, in the scheme of life, so he calls things low-hanging fruit. A low-hanging fruit is a fruit that's easy to pick. It doesn't take effort. So when he talks about living in this surrendered way and working with ourselves, he doesn't say you go and dive into your childhood trauma or abuse or whatever and try and release that or work with that. No, he says you start with the moment in front of you, whatever's unfolding in front of this moment, you surrender to that. And he says, start consciously with the low-hanging fruit stuff that doesn't, he talks about weather all the time. How many of you have had a reaction to weather? How many of you have woken up and looked outside and had a reaction of not liking it or liking it? He always talks about your birthday, like it's raining on your birthday and you have an opinion about that. And he says, all of the meteorological forces have conspired to create the weather. None of those are about knowing it's your birthday. Or maybe, oh, you're training for a marathon and it's marathon day and it's raining, or, So that is the low-hanging fruit, something that you cannot control. There's no, what he talks about, cost benefit analysis. He almost had his PhD in economics. So he talks about, cost benefit analysis. There's no benefit to arguing with the reality about the weather. It's 100% cost, 0% benefit. So that's where you start. You start with traffic, and weather, those two places. And so, not that I've been perfect by any means, but because I have practiced letting go and surrendering, this key thing was a little bit higher. I mean, it wasn't the biggest thing in the world, but it wasn't tiny. It was an inconvenience. It's not resolved, blah, blah, blah. It's costing extra money, etc. But it's not much bigger than a low-hanging fruit. And because I've practiced with that, it makes these things easier to work with. Michael Singer talks about using it's like practicing scales on the piano. When you first learn to play the piano, the teacher doesn't say, here, play Beethoven. The teacher says, play scales. If you're playing tennis, he gives this example. You're not going to be playing with the Williams sisters the first time you ever play. You're going to be playing with a coach that's going to send you easy balls, and you just hit them over and over and over and over and over. This is the low-hanging fruit of practicing a state of surrender. So what he talks about is okay, well, why? That's one aspect of his teachings. Another aspect is, why are we upset? Where did this stuff come from? So think about in your life, in what I call it, and many teachings call it, is suffering, right? For me, suffering shows up in the form of thoughts that argue with what is, thoughts that argue with reality, either right now or about the past or about the future. Suffering shows up in sensations in the body that are uncomfortable. Things that we would label as, heartache or heartbreak or anxiety, anger, grief, sadness, overwhelm, all of these energies, they don't feel pleasant, right? So if you go to the most simplest way to look at it, there's energies when I'm suffering inside. They don't feel good and I don't like it. And I want it to go away as quickly as possible. It's just human nature, right? So Singer talks about, how did that stuff get there? It got there because in the moments in our life leading up to now, there were times where we resisted happenings and experiences because we didn't like them and we had a preference. So if something bad happened or unpleasant happened and we were not fully and totally present in allowing the situation to unfold and flow and the energy to flow and move through us, we pushed it away. He says we have hands inside of ourselves and we push things away inside. Can y'all relate to that? It's like this subtle energy where it's I don't want to feel like this, so I'm going to push it down. That pushing down and resisting of the experience stores that energy inside of you. And so now, we're all adults here. I assume there's not a 5-year-old in here. This mountain of shit grows bigger and bigger as our life goes on until we start working with these energies. So he says what happens is things touch your stuff. So the moment unfolds in front of you, however it's unfolding, it is neutral. He says the moment in front of you has nothing to do with you. It is the result of 13.8 billion years of happenings and we are still the Big Bang happening now. If you believe that, or it doesn't matter what beliefs you have, but regardless, wherever it came from, there's a moment here now. If we resist this moment, if we don't like what's happening in the moment, or we like it and we want to cling to it and have it and don't want it to go away, either way, we're storing stuff inside, and this moment is hitting our stuff that's already here. So he talks about, say, you had a girlfriend in high school with a blue Mustang, and then the girl cheated on you. So now, for the rest of your life, or at least for a long time after, anytime you see a blue Mustang, you're going to feel that in your body if you didn't surrender to it as it happened, which 99% of people don't. So say that car drives by and you feel that thing in your heart. It's touching your stuff that was stored because you didn't bear witness and allow it to move through you. You pushed it down, you pushed it away because you didn't like it, you didn't want it. So when that happens, whatever that scenario may be for you, there is an invitation, and I talk about this a lot. Do we live in a friendly universe? What if everything is here to help us? So even for me last night with that key example, you know what my thought was? Well, there must be some reason I'm not meant to drive home on my motorbike. This is probably saving or protecting me from something. I mean, I don't even want to think about that, the negative possibilities, but motorbikes are not the safest thing. So that was my thought. Okay, this is helping me. And even if it's not that, and I'll never know, it at least gave me something to surrender and work with myself with. So when you start to shift your focus that there's that, that looks like my ex's car, oh my God, my ex, and then you feel that, and then you have the mental response, and then you're just like, I don't like that, I'm resisting this experience of this reminder. When you can start seeing that car or that reminder or that situation as this is source, the universe, whatever, conspiring to help you release this, because whatever these energetic blockages are that are in the way are the thing that is causing your unhappiness and your suffering and your misery. It's blocking what Singer calls the Shakti flow. So he says that, and we talk about this, like children, in their energy and when they're not like crying or whatever, but they have this pure bliss energy, and that is the essence of our true nature. We taught, the enlightened people, gurus in India that are, they can't even take care of themselves because they are so full. There's such an open, clear channel of this Shakti. They're in bliss. Nothing bothers them. They're like children. They go around laughing all the time. Singer talks about some guru, I forgot which one. But people's like job in the ashram, they had to walk behind the guru because he would so often like fall, his physical body would fall into bliss that people had to catch him. So Singer says that's our true nature, that our true nature is that we get to, if you wake up every day, it's Christmas Day. Every moment is Christmas morning. He says that's the ideal, and that's what's possible, and we all have that within us. It's just that we've resisted life, We have preferences, desires, clingings, attachments, resistances, fears. All of that stuff has then created this stuff that's blocking this bliss inside. So what do we get to do is, when the moment unfolds and it's not, we have a preference, we have a desire, we have an attachment, or we resist it, this is your invitation to work with yourself and to notice, ooh, I feel something. The world's coming in. I don't, I have some energy about seeing the blue Mustang. Oh, here it is. Here's the opportunity. Singer says, throw it a party. This stuff is coming up to be healed. This is conspiring to help you. So throw it a party. Like last night, I did have some resistance, don't get me wrong. I wasn't 100% in surrender, but for the most part, it was pretty clean energy. So it's, he says, if you see your ex, it's a personal or a spiritual experience. If you go visit your mother-in-law, it's a spiritual experience. Everything's here to help you. So, starting to throw it a party. Yes, this is coming up. How can I be with this? So he gives a couple very simple and basic tools and techniques. And basically, the favorite one that we all know if you've been here often enough is relax and release, R&R. So the thing comes in, could be pleasant or unpleasant. So there's two categories of things: what's wanted and what's not wanted. So if you see your lover after a long time and you're in a long distance relationship and then you meet, you're totally open, you're not in resistance, your field is totally open, you're totally embracing the moment, totally in presence and deliciousness. Or it's your wedding day and you're saying your vows, or it's your honeymoon, or it's your first or fifth child being born, whatever. You're totally open. Versus the opposite. Something terrible happens, or bad happens, or somebody dies. Whatever, or lose your job. Any of those things. We are not totally open. We totally close because we don't like it. And it feels shitty inside when we resist it. So he calls this the rattlesnake and the butterfly. So it's like, a butterfly lands on your arm. Oh, you just go into total open, letting that experience in. And then suddenly you see a rattlesnake. And you close. So basically, everything is a rattlesnake or a butterfly experience. So the invitation is, with the rattlesnake experience, that you apply the same level of openness to the rattlesnake that you do to the butterfly. So whatever those are for you. So that moment comes in, you see yourself wanting to contract, resist, push away with your internal hands. The invitation is, here, I get to throw this a party. I get to open myself just as if I was seeing a butterfly. And you can feel that difference. So that's a lot of ground I've covered already. Is everybody following? questions or comments. Hi, Friendly Paws. Hi, Laura. Hi, Liz. Welcome, welcome. So what does this bring up for you? Hi, Duchess. Hi, Mark. So the way I've used these teachings is just in my life, to the best of my ability, is I tune into the heart. So he talks about, we're either living from our mind or our heart. Our mind is, we have all of this thought. This is where things get into trouble because we argue with reality. We have preferences, we have desires. So basically, when this scenarios are all happening and you have thoughts about it, it's about having enough presence to, because there's a feeling in the body. So he says we want to drop into the sensations in the body. He says, what about what the mind's thinking? He says it's none of your business what the mind's thinking. In that moment, it's none of your business. The mind is going to think. If you get caught up here, you're going to be in the suffering. So he says, come out of the mind, come into the heart. And Muji talks about this as well. I heard him say it yesterday. This is where we get to work. On the level of the heartfelt experience in the moment. And I gave an example yesterday, and I went really into detail on another live about being in the car and working with myself. And I had to come into a fully present being with my heart. Singer talks about the heart is a symphony. It's like an orchestra that plays a symphony. We want to experience that symphony, however it feels. And he said, and then, this happens with me. I'm like, okay, I'm surrendering. I'm being with the heart and noticing the sensations, and they feel like shit. And then the mind comes in. Well, how long do I have to do this? None of your business, Singer says. Because we don't know. We don't know. It takes what it takes. So Jamie says, how to love snakes more. Yes. And I would say not even love, but just be with, open to. And J.E., yes. Difficult happenings. Yes, and there's nowhere where this doesn't apply, period. It doesn't mean you don't take care of yourself. It doesn't mean, there's a tsunami coming. Oh, I'm just surrendering to the moment and I'm going to just allow it to wash over me even though I see it coming. No. You get out of the way. You work with your internal response around the external happening. Yes, so that's a great point, Britt. The mind wants to be in control. Why? Singer talks about this. We gave the mind an impossible job to do. That's why it doesn't shut up. We told the mind, I want to be happy. And in order to be happy, I need the external world to show up in a certain way. I want things to happen, certain things, and I don't want certain things to happen. So we've given this objective to the mind. And so the mind is now spending its entire waking moments and entire life on how to get things the way that we want. Which means being in control. So I'm going to play, and I see, Rose, your question. I made a reel on my Instagram and Facebook. Follow me there if you want to see it, whatever. I'm going to play it because it's Michael Singer. And just, take this in. Let's see.
On and the thing. So it doesn't matter. No condition of the outside that will have you be okay inside. You haven't got that one on yet. You haven't opened your eyes. Anytime you get what you think you want, it changes. What changes? Both what you want and the thing. So it doesn't matter. If it stays the way you wanted it, you don't want it no more. If you change, then it's not what you want. It just doesn't stay that way. Anytime you get what you want something else. It has to be that way. Want to know why? Because you're not okay. You have come up with conditions that you think will make it better. You think will make it okay. They won't. Getting a car is not going to fix your broken heart. Eating ain't going to do it either. And they say shopping works well for depression. Not really. Okay, I mean, have your hair done or buy a new suit or something. You go on a vacation. It's not going to do it. Temporarily distracts you from your problem. That's all it can do, is distract you from your problem and make your problem go away. It's coming back. Don't worry about it. All right? So net is, you can't solve an inner problem outside, but you're trying. And the very fact that you have going on inside what it is that's going to be needed and what's going to fix you is sheer ignorance. And then if you get it, for a moment, it's like, whoa, wow, that's neat, right?
So, what came up for y'all around that? Does that resonate? We're not okay inside. Hi, Tina. So we're not okay, and we want to manipulate and control the external environment to make us okay inside, and it never will work ever, period. Because, as he just said, and have you noticed, your mind says, I need this to be happy, or I want this to happen. You get it. You get that thing. Does it ever make you happy? No, because what happens when you get the thing you think you want, then the thing changes, then you want something else. He says later on in that talk, he interviewed people and asked them, what do you need to be happy? And he said not one person listed things they already had. Feel how deep that is. He asked people, what do you think will make you happy? Nobody said the things they already had. So the deepest place you can come from with this is starting to recognize that trying to get any sort of fulfillment or happiness or things to happen or not happen in the outside world will not work to end your suffering. It will not work. Because he says once you get it, you'll be like, wow, that's great at first, and then you'll want something else. It never ends. Because the problem is, there's this suffering inside. How many of you can tune into that within yourself? How many of you can kind of step back in witness, like whatever you label it, there's a suffering sensation. For me, it's a feeling of my heart's contracted and there's like an ache. And so the world comes in, it hits that. It activates it. This is actually a gift and a blessing, as we already talked about. And there is your invitation. So he has a talk on one of his podcast episodes about the commitment to staying conscious. And he says, if you truly want to end your suffering, you have got to make a commitment that supersedes all other commitments and gets to be the most important thing in your life, period, ever. And that's the commitment to staying conscious in every moment, in every millisecond, to work with yourself, to start to create space between the I am, the awareness, the presence, the beingness, that infinite part of us, to not let it get wrapped up in the illusion of the stream of thinking and totally identified with it, because when that happens, that's when we suffer. So, I call him spiritual tough love. He's very, like, not unforgiving, but, like, matter of fact, that's what it takes. And how many of you have heard the story of me being in the car in Sri Lanka, and the driving, and my meltdown, and then my transformation? I did talk about it yesterday, but the reason that comes up is because I had to, because I'm committed, but am I committed on a Michael Singer level? No. It is what it is. But basically, I was resisting greatly the present moment in front of me. I had prior experiences where I resisted the same sort of a present moment, so I pushed all that stuff down. So there's this huge, it's a samskara is what it's called in Hinduism. There's this huge samskaric mountain of, resisted energy. So then when I was, in this taxi situation and freaking out because it was scary, it very much it activated all of this energy inside of me. And I did go into sort of a meltdown. I did. I was aware of it. So there's that, which is huge. And then within it, as I'm experiencing it, I'm like, here, like, this is it. This is everything Singer talks about. This is everything I talk about. If I'm committed to this journey, this is the moment. This is here to help me. This is here it's coming up to help me release all that's in the way of this Shakti bliss that is the true nature of who I am. When we push this stuff down, it takes so much energy to be up in here and to resist. That's why surrender, relaxing and releasing. Oh, and y'all, check out my premium track here in Insight Timer called Total Surrender. It will help you energetically work with these energies and shift this. You can listen to it every day. So, in the car that day, I was very activated, and it was like I had to have such a level of commitment to being present. It took so much focus and so much concentration and so much commitment, full and total presence, to not getting in here and coming out of there and coming into the experience of the heart center, all of the sensations, and in every millisecond committing to relax and release and surrender and just be with those energies. Now, that was not a low-hanging fruit. But because I've practiced somewhat with the low-hanging fruit around me, I had some capacity to work with this bigger energy. And I did it. And what happened as a result, I worked with it enough to where it transmuted, and it's an alchemical process. I said this yesterday. Our presence with what's here, especially when it's, samskaric energies, resistant energies, things we've pushed down, the pain body, as Eckhart Tolle calls it. Our presence is, and our attention and our witness consciousness is the magic, is the necessary component needed that transmutes and transforms that stuck energy, whatever you want to call it, and releases it, transmutes it. To me, that's shadow work. The light of our conscious witnessing presence on that energy, that millisecond level of presence. That's so the most transformative and healing thing you can do, and nobody can do this for you. Hi, Butterfly Rain. It is possible to apply this everywhere, all the time. It is possible. It's not about if it's possible, it's about do you want to? And it's about, have you suffered enough? How well has your way worked? It is hard to be present. But I'm not going to buy into... my mind says that too. I meditated this morning for 15 minutes. I've gotten out of, a consistent practice with actually intentional meditation. I did it this morning. The mind was being the mind. And then there was a judgment. Oh, this is hard. Like, the mind won't shut up, blah, all that stuff. In that moment is your moment of transformation and transmutation. It's okay. There's nothing wrong. The only thing to do is come back over and over and over again. Rupert Spira, does anybody know him? He's another teacher in these realms. I heard an interview of his that in one part really impacted me, where the interviewer was like, what's the biggest change you've noticed, or how have you changed the most as a result of you awakening? And he said, I have ceased to look to the outside world for anything. And that was like, whoa, wow. And Singer says that too. It doesn't mean you don't plan and you don't get out of or get into situations or take care of yourself. But doing that from a place not to make this change or get rid of this, whatever that, the suffering. That you get to release the resistance in here. And this requires mindfulness and, moment to moment presence. I mean, Singer says, like I said, like this commitment to staying conscious, no matter what, all the time, every single moment of every single day. If you're not willing, that's okay. It's not a judgment. But just know, if you're hearing this, that you're ready, your soul's ready, you're evolved enough to do it if you're hearing it. Suffering is a choice. I mean, it's not a choice until it is, and if you're hearing me, it is a choice now. Pain is not a choice, like if there's a physical pain in the body. But the response to that is your choice. So just reflect on these things and notice, when are you wanting something from the outside world? When are you wanting to feel better by wanting something outside of you to change, either come closer or go further away? Just start noticing that if you don't see it already. And that's what I'm waking up to. I mean, this is very Buddhist and Hindu teachings. The cause of suffering is desire. So anywhere where there's desire, fear, attachment, clinging, resistance, either wanting more of something from this moment or not wanting it and pushing it away. Yeah, butterfly rain, that's a great question, because what happens is, it's conditioning and it's patterns and it's habits, and there's nothing wrong with that. And also everyone here is on a journey of awakening, or you wouldn't be here. So it's about a retraining of the mind and having enough commitment to work with yourself. And so in the moment, in the moment when you wake up in the dream of illusion. Because if you're caught in the stream of thinking, you're in illusion. You're not in reality. And most of us don't live in reality. And I can raise my hand here. I'm not talking down to anyone. But when we are lost in our thoughts, we're not in reality. Reality is only here, right now, in this moment, hearing these words come out of my mouth. That's the deepest level of presence that's required. You know, you can look around the room that you're in and have all these thoughts about all these things you see, and memories will come up, and stories and preferences and judgments and arguments with reality. I can look at my backpack over there. Oh, the zipper's broken. I remember when I broke it and it only partially works. I lived in this place 5 or 6 years ago. Ooh, I have these memories that came up about that. The bedspread. This is a Balinese sash that goes over the third chakra when you go in the temple. When Carmen said they liked it, that's what came to my mind. So we have all these perceptions and projections that we're pasting onto reality, which is, okay, I'm sitting in a room talking. I hear like cicadas or whatever. I hear music. I hear my voice. I see the screen. I see the bubbles of the wonderful people here. I'm going to read my favorite passage from the Surrender Experiment, and let me know, does anybody else have any comments, questions? I've read this many times and I'm going to read it again. Thank you for the donation, Diana. J.E., great question. Yeah, what about creation, art, and science, things that come from thought? It's not saying we don't use the mind. So Singer talks about the mind is like a computer, you know? Actually, that doesn't go in line with what I'm wanting to say, but he does say that. It's not saying thought is wrong. Creation, art, and science, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. It doesn't mean you don't, like, this is why Michael Singer is amazing, because as I said in the beginning, he's retired now. He was very much in the world. He started a medical records software company. He, almost got to his PhD in economics. He, from, the unfolding of his life and the surrendering, he ended up, co-creating and being on the board of WebMD, $1 billion company. He was very much in the corporate world. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, Elizabeth, and I saw Tony. Yeah, and creativity is a separate thing. Yeah. Hey, Ginger. So actually, I'm going to read two things. So I told you I meditated this morning, and it was like sort of a Muji based thing, and Muji's a spiritual teacher. So if you want to practice cultivating that witness consciousness and detaching from the illusion of mind and thought and stories, this is a simple path to awakening, a daily morning and evening exercise. Be alone and quiet for 15 minutes. Detach yourself from all that appears in the mind or through the senses. Don't try to control the mind. Simply stay empty and aware, but not of anything in particular. Let whatever comes come. Simply refuse to engage or control. Remain only aware of being aware, apart and uninvolved. Spontaneously, it will become clear and obvious that everything comes and goes by themselves, but yourself is like an empty and unchanging space, peaceful, content, and unaffected by the traffic of the mind in the world. Discover yourself to be that in which the mind, personal self, in its world appears and disappears. You remain untouched as pure beingness. So that's really the journey. That's the journey of awakening, enlightenment, self-realization, self-actualization, is ceasing to be identified with the train of thought that never ends, ceasing to be swayed by whatever's happening in the outside world and our reaction to it and getting lost in that, to becoming the witness and the observer of that, relaxing and releasing behind all of that conditioning. We are untouched as pure beingness. Wayne Dyer talks about that in one of his talks, where he says, think about you at 10 years old. You look in the mirror. You look different, but behind that, there's an essence, a beingness, a presence. You are still you. If you look in the mirror when you're 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever, this body changes, but this awareness, that essence, it's still the same. That essence, that beingness, that pure presence, quality, never changes. And that's where this journey is all going, is about releasing the stuff that's blocking it, the mind getting attached, the mind, getting opinionated about the outside world. It's all happening in this field of awareness. So now I'm going to find that singer quote from his book, The Surrender Experiment. So it says, by that stage of my growth, I could see, well, if I can get the screen right. I could see that the practice of surrender was actually done in two very distinct steps. First, you let go of the personal reactions of like and dislike that form inside your mind and heart. So we've been talking about this. You let go. There's a personal reaction of like and dislike that forms inside the mind and heart. The outside world comes in, or thoughts come in. There's a personal reaction of like and dislike. First, you let go of that. We've talked about working with that. Second, with the resultant sense of clarity, you simply look to see what is being asked of you by the situation unfolding in front of you. So once you release the personal reaction, then you're free. You're coming into relationship with the moment from a place of neutrality and not needing something from it. You have a sense of clarity and unattachment to the unfolding in front of you. What would you be doing if you weren't influenced by the reactions of like or dislike? So Britt talked about being nervous about starting university and a new career path, and totally get that. It's not about discounting or diminishing feelings. It's about noticing and then working with them if you choose. So, there's thoughts and stories that are creating the experience of nervousness. So first, coming out of the stories in the mind, unless you're, somebody's sitting, taking a test in the moment and feeling a certain way about it, it's worry and, maybe there was something in the past where, and not personal to Brit, I'm just using this as an example of like, oh, maybe they failed tests in the past and or dropped out, or, there's something from the past that the mind is remembering that then is putting worry into the future, creating nervousness about starting. So first, coming out of the mind into the body, letting go of personal reactions of like or dislike. There's a personal reaction of not liking all of those thoughts, I imagine. It's creating sensations in the body, working on the energetic and somatic level of releasing and relaxing around those sensations, which this is where the commitment to presence is required, because it's very compelling to just get lost in the story. So orienting into the body, into the space that you're in, relaxing and releasing behind, being the witness of that experience of sensation, and letting go of preference. And it might even be, if you want to work on the level of thought of, okay, so what? I'm afraid I'll fail. So what? Then what? Then what will happen? Then what will happen? Okay, release. And then with the resultant sense of clarity, you look to see what is being asked of you by the moment in front of you. Okay, right now in this moment, I'm not there yet. Nothing's happening. What's being asked of me? I'm sitting here reading a book or listening to the live stream or eating or whatever. So sometimes the moment in front of you, and J.E. brought this in about like creation and, thoughts and science and natural disasters and all that. Sometimes the moment in front of you is, there's something to do. But now you're doing it from a different space where you're not attached. So it closes by saying, following that deeper guidance will take your life in a very different direction from where your preferences would have led you. This is the clearest I can explain my surrender experiment, and it became the foundation of both my spiritual and worldly life. So what have been your biggest takeaways from this surrender circle today? I notice a lot. I have a contraction in my chest, like energetically. I wasn't aware before. I'm aware of it now. And it doesn't even matter it's not important what it's about. It's that I notice it. And that then I can relax and release around it and just be directly with that sensation. Unconditional presence. I don't want to do it. I mean, the ego and the mind wants to do it to get rid of the feeling. So I've got to watch for that. The deeper guidance. Wayne Dyer, amazing. Yeah. So how you can do it, Deb, is by working with the low-hanging fruit first. Noticing when your mind has a reaction or opinion about weather. Noticing when you have a reaction in traffic or waiting in line somewhere. Or other things that it's just, there's no point because it's just the way it is. So in those moments, waking up, becoming aware, oh, wow, I notice I don't like that it's raining. Here's the moment to practice. I notice the mind has a story. I notice there's a sensation in the body, in the heart. Let me come into the heart. Let me do my best, my absolute best right now to bring total presence in witnessing of this heart, relaxing and release. It's behind. It's this very subtle sense of relaxing behind, which means sort of like an opening to create space for the heart to do whatever it needs to do. So relax around the body or around the heart. You know, it's raining. Here's the moment. Okay, come into the heart, into presence. I mean, you can do it closing eyes. You can, if you can't sit, then just do your best as you move. You know, if you need to get up and go to work or something, just do your best. Come into your body, release, relax and release. You know, doing somatic practices, you know, that we talked about, which means just being, noticing. Then if the mind's like, well, this is taking too long, or, but it's really raining hard, there it, okay. Thank you for sharing. Back into the heart. That's all that matters. It's got to be, for me, this is what I'm working with. It's got to be the most important thing in my life in that moment, is working with this energy, because nothing else matters. And Singer says that. And it doesn't mean I don't take care of responsibilities and make plans and do all that stuff. But this is the most important thing. Working with ourselves internally. Because it's the only thing we can control. And once we start doing this interior journey, I mean, the world is going to happen. Things are going to always be happening, good and bad, pleasant, unpleasant, rattlesnakes and butterflies. So we get to release the need that the world needs to do anything except be exactly how it's being. And then we do the interior work, and what happens is, he says, stop putting new stuff inside. So we've got stuff inside. He says, stop doing that. So moving forward, when something unfolds, do your best to not have a personal reaction. Be present. Allow the experience to move through you in the ways we've described. So don't put anything new on top. And what will happen once you start relaxing and releasing and surrendering in all these different, micro ways and low-hanging fruit ways and then bigger ways, he says the bigger stuff will come up on its own, and it will come up in the perfect order at the perfect time for you. Trust it. Then you relax and release around the bigger stuff. And then he says what happens is then now this Shakti flow is blocked, and you're going to start feeling bliss, and you're going to start feeling peace, and you're going to start feeling gratitude. Because why do you want the things you want outside? Because you want to feel all those things. They're already here within us. We've just blocked it. Beautiful, Duchess. So, Diana, it says, following that deeper guidance will take your life in a very different direction from where your preferences would have led you. You're welcome. Thank you all so much. You teach, me. You teach what you most need to know. So that's what I'm doing. And it's like I get to, and I do continually reground myself in these teachings because, it's easy to forget, get into the old conditioning. One thing the singer says is once you go down this journey a while and things are clearing and you're surrendering, and he says you'll notice that the moments unfolding in front of you, when you have this level of presence, it's like life is wanting to dance with you. And he says, how can you bring, each moment passing in front of you is a gift. What do you get to bring to that moment? And that this moment leaves better than it came. So we become a giver. You're welcome. I am going live tomorrow. Tomorrow morning in the Western Hemisphere, evening in the East. I think it's my new morning Reiki session that I'm excited about. So don't forget to follow me. Insight Timer, YouTube, Facebook, Insta. This will be up on my YouTube as a video soon. Listen to my total surrender meditation in the premium section. And all my meditations. Thank you, Britt. I love that. I know you're very passionate about this singer work as much as me, so I love that. Thank you. And if you feel called to do this deeper work, I do have an offering to do one-on-one life coaching, like a deep dive immersive, with this being the focus of the coaching, of this surrender experience. So I'd love to offer that if you feel like that's you. Yeah, that's been an intention that I haven't fully dove into, so here it is. So, thank you. So if you feel called to talk about the possibility of going into one-on-one coaching with me, and this is what we're up to, send me a message. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Loving you all. Namaste. Bye-bye.